I've been encouraging people to do, especially people that are new to investing in crypto and in Bitcoin, is just to zoom out a little bit. And there's obviously been volatility in the markets over the last few weeks. And you typically see quite a lot of activity towards the end of the calendar year, in any case, in the crypto markets. But looking back to 2021 and the performance of Bitcoin and certain other crypto assets, they've exceeded performance of most assets across any type of market, and I've just been encouraging people to really look at the longer term trends versus sort of the day to day and the week to week volatility that we're seeing right now.
Bitcoin has seen the largest decline of the start of the year out of any year since its inception. People are wondering, can this decline continue?
So I think that decline is also partly explained by the growth that the assets saw in 2021. So we obviously saw new all-time highs for Bitcoin over 65,000 US dollars and up an incredible amount since the start of 2021. So there was, I think, when you see an over exuberance in the price action on the upside for Bitcoin, when there are certain events that happen, then you're going to see more of a correction. So I think we've certainly seen that over the last couple of weeks, but I think again in the longer term trend, it's part of the growth of an asset class like this.
Well, do you think the Fed has anything to do with this market reaction that we're seeing?
I think it's definitely had an impact. The U.S. Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes or plans to hike interest rates are a key macro factor that affects the crypto markets and affects Bitcoin. And I think those types of things are really important for investors to keep in mind as they're deciding whether to get into different crypto assets like Bitcoin. There's risk and reward always associated with these assets, and those more global trends are definitely going to impact things on a short-term basis.
Every day I log on to Twitter. On the top of my feed is always a bunch of people saying, look, you've got to buy the dip or diamond hands. So I don't know which camp you're in, but do you agree with either of those philosophies?
I think for sure when there's opportunities to get in at a lower price into an asset like Bitcoin, personally, I definitely always seek those types of opportunities. I wouldn't necessarily say that's the same for every crypto asset. I think you and I have talked about some more speculative assets. Squid coin was one we talked about last time. Probably wouldn't recommend getting into something like that. But I think for people that see the fundamental value and long-term value in an asset like Bitcoin, these types of short-term fluctuations really are a good opportunity when you're looking to hold the asset longer term.
In times of volatility like this, does it matter which crypto you own? Everything's going down. Is there a safer crypto?
I would, obviously not investment advice, but my personal view is the two assets that make the most sense and have done so for over the course of the last 5 years since I first got into the industry are Bitcoin and ETH. Bitcoin digital gold and ETH is programmable smart contracts. And you're seeing so many use cases on top of Ethereum. DeFi is really driving a lot of that value, and so I think where there is sort of fundamental value and use cases behind these assets, there's a really good case for those assets retaining more value during these fluctuations. And I think if you look at some of the more of the altcoins, like some of the more speculative coins during this last few weeks of volatility, they've erased a lot more value than assets like Bitcoin and ETH.
Yeah. WonderFi CEO, we're going to be talking about DeFi. In the past, some might have bought or speculated with Bitcoin solely because it was a speculative investment. But now with your platform, now with other platforms along the way, we're starting to see that it does have utility outside of potentially either a store of value or as a trading vehicle. Is that correct to say?
Sure. So I think Bitcoin is still best viewed as a store of value or as digital gold, and I think a lot of smart money that's getting into crypto from institutions to high net worth and so on and so forth share that view. It's a scarce asset, and people really are taking that view. I think with ETH, you're seeing more and more use cases. Obviously, there's been a big explosion of interest in NFTs and metaverse and DeFi, which is where WonderFi is focused. And you're really starting to see some of the use cases that I think people who were looking at the industry or who were in the industry back in 2016 and 2017, these are use cases that we were dreaming of. It was all types of financial transactions happening on chain that was not a reality back then. We're now seeing we're seeing that happen in a really meaningful way.
Give us an example of one of these transactions that is happening now but was not possible a few years ago.
Well, I think it's always been possible, but I think it really comes down to the technology being vetted and the adoption happening. So one example would be peer-to-peer lending. You've got DeFi protocols like Compound and Aave that are facilitating peer-to-peer lending and borrowing in ways that we've never seen before.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Okay, now this is where your platform comes in. WonderFi is a DeFi platform. What does it do first and foremost?
So what we're doing with WonderFi is aggregating and simplifying all of this great functionality within DeFi. So that's trading on decentralized exchanges, that's lending and borrowing, that's earning yield on your assets through staking, and doing things like buying indexes that cover the whole DeFi market. The big problem with DeFi is that it is super fragmented and complicated. So for your average person to be able to understand what's going on or to be able to access it, it's just not possible. So with WonderFi, we're really trying to educate and just simplify the user interface so that people can access this really important decentralized peer-to-peer financial opportunity. The key thing is you own and control your assets within DeFi. So in traditional finance and in some areas of crypto, you're very reliant on a centralized party to custody your assets and really you're reliant on them to be able to transact, and there's permission that's required from that party for you to be able to carry that out. So DeFi is something that allows you to take ownership and control of your asset and transact directly with counterparties. So that's important for a number of reasons. One of the key drivers and really kind of passion areas behind DeFi is that you do have places where it's very difficult for people to get access to banking or to credit, and that's because they're reliant on whether it's a government or a bank or any type of other centralized party to be able to provide them with the approval to do that. And in this case, it's allowing people to access banking when they don't necessarily have the opportunity to do so.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't most of the world unbanked, especially if you look at developing areas and emerging economies? Most people don't have a bank. In fact, in El Salvador, I read that in El Salvador, I think it's something like 70% of the population doesn't have a bank account. And so potentially we're looking at a revolution whereby DeFi may actually be larger in scale than traditional financial banks, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And even in places like New York City, there's around 15% of people that don't have a bank account. So even in the United States, you have major cities that have significant populations, but El Salvador is a great example. And you also have in some of these markets, people don't have access to a stable currency, and so it's very difficult for people to just function in a normal way without something like the US dollar. So DeFi then also opens up access to stable coins, which are pegged to a more stable currency, the US dollar, and allows them to transact and carry out different financial transactions with that without needing a a local bank account or a US bank account, which they wouldn't have access to. So it really opens up things for people that are in some of these developing countries.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.